Thanks so much for joining us for Connect to Congress. Joining us today is Representative John Curtis. Thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on your solid win last night.
Thank you, Heidi. I feel really good about it.
We were just talking about this was a quick turnaround. You were on the campaign trail last night, but no sleep for the weary, back at 'em today.
Right. We did the red eye because we had to be back here for votes and committee meetings early this morning.
One of the most important votes that we've been talking about now for a couple of weeks is the immigration vote. How did you vote on this issue today?
I voted for the bill. I'm quite interested in getting something through the House and a little bit frustrated that we haven't been able to do so.
This bill failed miserably, I think would be an appropriate way to say it. Fewer votes from Republicans in the House than even the last bill. What do you think was the biggest holdup with getting Republicans all on the same page for this?
I kind of sensed there was a mood of discouragement, and a lot of people left who had previously supported it just because they could see it was going to fail and didn't want to be on a part of something that wasn't going to pass.
The president gave his 11th hour endorsement of this. I think I saw a tweet in all caps saying that he wanted people to pass it. Does that help, or is it better if he comes down and has conversations in the days ahead?
You know, he came down last week and he had that conversation, and people wanted a follow-up tweet so that he was very public about it, and just couldn't bring him on board.
For you, I know that you sent out a statement today saying that this wasn't the perfect bill, but you were voting for it because something had to get done. There's a chance now to maybe make some changes before you vote on it again. What do you want to see in an immigration bill?
Well, one of the things that was missing was dealing with our seasonal workers in the state. Right now, we're hitting a wall, and there's a lot of businesses in Utah that are really suffering because they can't get the help they need. So that's one of the things that I would love to see in the bill.
Are there particular businesses here in Utah that talk to you about this issue?
Almost weekly. It's not unusual for me to get a call daily or weekly from somebody who's just really struggling.
Another issue that's important in here are obviously the DACA, the Dreamers. Where do you stand on this issue? What do you want to have happen with them?
Well, we need to find a solution. It's simply not right that we haven't been able to find an answer for them. I think there's a lot of variations that would work, but bringing some degree of stability into their lives is really important.
And as far as families on the border, what do you want to see happen there? I know the president's giving them 20 days at this point. What's your permanent solution?
Well, this one's the easiest one of all day long. There's just no way we should be separating families. No way under any circumstances, and we need to find an answer. I think you'll see Congress, I hope you'll see Congress respond within just a few days and make sure it's permanent.
Last question on immigration. This last bill that failed today in the House had money in it for a border wall. Should the border wall be a part of a greater immigration plan?
You know, I think the better question is border security, and I hardly talk to a person who doesn't agree. We need better border security. It's not just our southern border, it's our northern border, it's our airports and our seaports. And in my opinion, we should be using our latest technology, our best minds to figure out how to best secure that border.
Moving on to another big issue today, Justice Kennedy is going to be retiring from the Supreme Court. A lot of talk about this. He's been there since President Reagan. Likely on a lot of cases, the swing vote, a bit more of a moderate. A lot of people here in Utah, at least, voted for President Trump on one issue, that he would be deciding the Supreme Court. Where do you want this to go? Are you hoping he goes very conservative? Maybe someone more like Kennedy?
Well, I think his last pick was right on the money. I hear everywhere I go in Utah that people are really pleased with his initial pick. I think if he can find that caliber of an individual again, you'll see him appointed, and I think he'll serve well.
Supreme Court justices are not supposed to be political pawns, but they end up being such sometimes, especially when we're talking about whether they're conservative or not. How soon could we actually see a new justice of the Supreme Court? Because last time there were fights from both sides about waiting for another election. Do we wait for the election in November or try to get someone through before then?
Well, if I had to speculate, I'd say President Trump will move quickly and he'll put a name out to the Senate. Of course, the House doesn't get a vote on that. My speculation is you'll see President Trump be ready for this and put a name forward, and then let's see what the qualifications are, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Senate took it up and moved on it quickly as well.
One thing that I know that you're set to testify on is the national debt, and there are some big numbers and big changes. What's happening with the national debt that people need to be paying attention to?
Well, you're right. I actually had that opportunity this morning to testify, and my message was take a look at Utah. There's a number of things we're doing right. I highlighted our baseline budget practice. That one thing, if we would just adopt that one thing here in Washington, we could avoid the shutdowns and the continuing resolutions and really put us in a position to be more thoughtful and logical and methodical when we put that budget together. So as far as I'm concerned, we've got to bring Utah's values here and show them how we're doing it so well back in the state.
And you were on that committee this morning, bright and early. How was that accepted? Did people say, hey, let's talk about this more, or was it moving on to the next person?
The format was simply listening to a lot of people. It was open to all members of Congress to come share their ideas, and I grabbed that opportunity and jumped in, and I'm hoping it will catch on. I take every opportunity I can to preach about what we're doing in Utah and show my colleagues here how it really can be done.
On another issue, the Supreme Court just upheld, many people surprised by this, the travel ban that the president wanted for multiple different countries. Your stance on this issue?
Well, I think it's really important that the United States control its borders. If it ever leans towards racism or discriminating against a religion or people for their ethnicity, of course that's wrong. But the president's responsibility is to protect this country. So to the extent that he's using it for that, the Supreme Court's obviously upheld his authority to do that. And I think we just need to be watchful and careful that it's used the appropriate way.
Another big issue facing our country right now, the opioid crisis, and here in Utah as much or more so than other states. You have a portion of that bill that we'll be pushing beyond with that greater bill in the end. Tell us a little bit about what you've been working on and what's moving forward.
You know, I was surprised, really shocked to learn how much Utah was leading actually in a bad way in this category. We double the national average for prescriptions for pregnant women on opioids, and that's just really out of character and out of harmony with our district. So the bill tries to get to the heart of that and understand what's going on, and so we can make changes. It's been interesting the last couple of weeks. The House has literally seen almost over 4 dozen bills go through on opioids, and these are good bills. These are bipartisan bills. I think almost exclusively are going through with both parties' full support. And I'm really pleased that Congress is jumping on this, and particularly delighted to have a small part in that with my staff coming forward with this bill that will be really good for Utah.
We will let you have the last word. Anything you want people to know back home here in Utah? We're dependent on their help and their support. I want them to know we're fighting their battles every day. That I want to make sure that I can go home and look them in the eye and represent them well. And look forward to seeing them in the town hall meetings, on the streets, and in every venue possible, and getting their feedback. Representative John Curtis joining us on what's been a very long day and 48 hours for him. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Heidi.